this is a section where we're going to get into innovations to integrate production technology, finance, and knowledge. We've heard a lot of the human resources and the limitations and standards this morning, and we'll start talking about some tools, some technologies, some innovations that will make that possible. And initially, we're doing this in alphabetical order. So right now, I've got Nick Chambers, and I'm going to give him a brief introduction. Is a business development manager at AgCompass LLC, which is also involved in the company's farming operation in Wisconsin. He grows, and I think he's probably the only one here growing cranberries. So interesting background. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Nick. He'll be on the screen.
Thanks, Norm. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody today. Can everybody hear me? Just want to make sure before I get going. Okay, thank you. First off, I want to introduce John Bales as part of the AgCompass team. We're very excited to have him on board. He's an IT professional with extensive experience that he gained while managing the IT environment for a company with over $1 billion in annual revenue. So we're thrilled to have him on board, and I think maybe some of you have worked with him over the last year or so. So can you wave or stand up, John? If you're, there you are. Hey, all right. So again, very happy to have John as part of the team. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of the IT trends that we're seeing. Of course, probably the most obvious now is the work from anywhere trend, and that's something that has really significantly been hastened, remote work as a result of the pandemic. It used to be folks would go into the office, sit down at their PC and work, log out, go home, and do it all over again the next day. And of course, now there's a significant work from home work being done. A lot of businesses have benefited from this. They've been able to reduce expenses such as rent for office space and utilities. And it's allowed some businesses to tap talent that they otherwise may not have found. So somebody that's not willing to relocate to work at a company, but willing to work remotely for that company. Of course, along with that, there's also challenges. Very few people had an experience managing remote workforce. And so there was a learning curve there. And of course, security becomes an issue when folks are using their personal devices and personal Wi-Fi networks and that type of thing. And that leads us to the next trend, which is cybersecurity. It's always been a component of IT, but again, with the increase in remote work, the interconnectivity of applications and companies increasingly storing customer data, both personal and payment information, cybersecurity has really bubbled up to be a top priority. So having security software, quality security software installed on all devices is essential, and end user behavior. I think we've all heard stories. Yeah, you know, don't click on attachments in emails, links in emails. And as annoying as it is, it's important to use strong passwords and change them at least periodically, if not frequently. Hardware replacement. Probably heard about the chip shortage, but it hasn't really impacted hardware as much as some might have thought, because people are replacing their PCs less often. So with computer and processing power and data storage moving to the cloud, hardware replacement just isn't, we can go longer before we have to replace that. I noticed the other day one of my PCs was 7 years old, and hadn't noticed it in terms of performance because I don't download the programs to it, and really don't store that much data on it. It still works fine. And then when we do get to the point where we need to upgrade, it's easier than it used to be. My wife got a new iPad a couple months ago. She powered it up, got a code on her iPhone, entered the code, and it dumped all her pictures and settings and apps and everything on her new iPad. And 2 steps and 10 minutes later, it was the exact same user experience as her old iPad. Another trend we're seeing is we are increasingly renting rather than owning. Think about music. You used to buy a CD, or some of us used to buy albums, vinyl albums, and you would own that music. But of course now with streaming services, you pay that monthly fee. Albums, vinyl albums, a lot more music. As long as now with streaming services, paying that monthly fee. And the same is happening. Microsoft Office. You used to buy it on CD. Now you buy it as an application, and as long as you're paying that monthly fee, you have access to it across your devices. And it allows Microsoft to push out updates and security patches, that type of thing. So there is some benefit to the end user as well. Another trend we're seeing is outsourcing instead of having in-house IT. So companies managed IT services, and that could be anything from managing email, providing security, maintaining the network, and even providing a help desk for a business. And typically businesses can do this for a little less money than they could to have someone on staff paying them a salary and benefits and such. Automation. We're increasingly seeing robots performing work, more complex work, and sometimes work that's dangerous or monotonous for people to do. And they can often do it with greater precision than people can. Also, they're being used, there's been cases with fruit crops rotting in the fields out in California because they can't find people to do the work. And they're testing robots to go pick strawberries. So they have to identify the ripe ones and be able to pick them without damaging them. And technology automation can also increase efficiency, such as starting irrigation. So when the soil moisture hits a certain set point, that irrigation starts and then hits the other set point and it turns off. And that kind of takes us to the next trend, which is sensors. And sensors will be showing up on all types of things as part of the Internet of Things trend. In manufacturing, of course, but also in agriculture, sensors on livestock, tracking their health, on equipment. And all of this data is collected and needs to be analyzed and made useful so it can be actionable. And that dovetails with our next trend, which is artificial intelligence. So that vast amount of data from the sensors needs to be crunched or algorithms applied or sliced and diced using software such as Microsoft Power BI. And all of that is done in hopes of gaining insights that allow managers and business owners to drive profitable decisions. So which of these trends will impact your business and to what extent? Ultimately, you and your management team are in the best position to determine that. And of course, everything comes at a cost. So if you decide to purchase a certain technology, there, of course, is a financial cost up front, but there can also be a cost in terms of time for training and a learning curve. And those costs have to be weighed against any increases you might see in efficiency or offsetting costs or driving additional revenue. But the reality is that all aspects of business are becoming increasingly complex with various technologies interwoven into how business is done. And so it often makes sense to work with people and companies that have a higher or broader level of expertise or knowledge than many businesses can typically afford to have in-house. So that's all I have for IT trends. I'll talk just for a couple minutes about AgCompass. We were founded about 20 years ago by Ken Weedig, who was there in the room, former IT department head over at John Deere, and founded by Ken and my father, Everett Chambers. He was doing ag consulting. He would work with farmers around the Midwest, do financial projections that they could take to the bank if they wanted to expand their operation. And he was looking for a better way more efficient way than driving out to those farms. And so Ken built a server on a PC, and that allowed Everett to connect with those farmers' financial software from his office. And that's still kind of what we do. Primarily what we do is hosting accounting software, and primarily for farmers. We're in 18 states and in Canada. And we basically do what many companies started doing last year, which is running software in the cloud. And that allows for a lot of business benefits, such as flexibility for employees and collaborators, daily data backup, increased security, and reduced IT costs. So if you have any questions or any interest in what we do, how we do it, how it might benefit your operation, please plan to attend our breakout session tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Or of course, feel free to talk to Ken or John or myself during the conference or after the conference. So again, thanks Norm for the opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Let's give him a hand.